the lack of patience. Sometimes the PhD students have a tendency to, they want to do a lot of things at the same time, and they lost the focus. So the mistake maybe very often is to lose the focus on what is important, and to be rigorous also. I think that the 3 points that I can see that there are points to work on during the PhD. So I would say stay focused, be patient, and be rigorous. Yeah.
What mistakes did you do during the PhD?
Well, we talked about one already. Should have started discussing things way earlier with my supervisor. I'm trying to do that now, but it's hard.
But for the mistake I like to do along the way, I think there are probably a lot, but I don't think you should like really regret about it. You need to think about the mistake that you have done along the way and trying to avoid it in the future. But it's like just to regret it, it doesn't really help that much, I think. Yeah, just cope with it.
Mistakes.
Things you would do differently?
Yeah, maybe because I felt that insecure in the first years, so year 1 and year 2, that I maybe I didn't. I was a bit scared to ask questions and to do things because I thought, okay, I cannot do this, and then it delayed some of my work, I think.
Okay.
So that's what I should have done differently. Just not be that insecure and just do the things. And if you make mistakes, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would say be fine with trying it anyway.
Yes.
And also tell to people when you don't know how to do it.
Yeah. So ask the questions. Just try to do your work. And if you make any mistakes, that's fine. Especially in your first year, nobody expects that you know everything. Yeah.
Mistakes. There were moments that I had a lot of free time, but I didn't take them. You know? Sometimes there were like weeks, I could have absolutely taken a week off.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't, because there was always something to do. There's always something to do, you know? And just take those weeks. I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
If you're like, this whole week I don't have appointments and I don't really have deadlines, yeah, I can work on that, but am I really inspired to do so right now? Like, if you have those doubts, cut it off. Pick your battles and be like, no, this week I'm gonna do something else, and then come back next week. And then probably then you'll be like, oh yes, now I feel motivated to work on this, and then you'll go. And then you're probably gonna be way more productive and you'll have way more fun than you feel obliged to work. Yeah. So I did that sometimes, and I'm trying to not do that now in my last 2 years.
At the beginning, you have maybe too high expectations and you put too much pressure on yourself. So you should not do that. That's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was like, okay, I arrived here in September and I was like, okay, so until the end of November, I will finish this project, then I will finish that project. No.
Okay. So you'd be more realistic about it?
Maybe not even realistic, but don't expect from yourself to do things you have absolutely no influence on. So I didn't have any influence on the fact that we could not sign an agreement between like something and something. So that's what you have to remember, and try to solve your problems as quick as possible, and that's the solution. So don't be focused on the failure, just think on how to solve the problem, how to change it, and don't think about it any longer. So something failed, you try to find another way, it's fixed, and forget about the fact that it didn't work. So just be focused on the fact that now it's working, and go on.
I think the biggest mistake of PhD students is that they spend a lot of time on experimental work, practical work, data analysis, and that the writing part of the manuscript, it's usually mostly at the end of the PhD, and we try to prevent that, because that means in the end you have to do a lot of writing, and then also publishing the data costs time. So we consider it important that you start writing at an early stage of your PhD already, and don't save that until the last.
What mistakes did you do during your PhD?
A lot. Experimentally, a lot. Well, that happens. You cannot be too hard on yourself. For example, I perform a lot of surgeries in animals, so it's bound to happen that you make mistakes. But then you learn through your mistakes. That's the most important point here. And you cannot just breeze through the PhD without making any mistakes. So I have personally made quite some experimental errors, but rectified it through the process so that it never repeats after that. But it's, again, very important to document your methodology before you start an experiment, and be in your fresh mind before starting this.
Okay, so you'd say it's fine to do mistakes?
It's definitely fine to do mistakes, because that's how you learn through.
Okay.
Because if you always keep succeeding, you wouldn't know where a mistake can happen, and then you actually, if it happens, you correct for it, and then now you know how it works.
When I came here, I had no previous knowledge on doing any path synthesis. So I had to learn everything from scratch. So of course I made a lot of mistakes with that. Like for example, receiving activity from the cyclotron. And where does the activity go? Didn't trap, things like that. Or in the beginning, of course, here you also learn how to do data analysis of imaging processing. So sometimes I had to redo all over again, until you have the learning curve, until you reach a plateau, let's say, that you know how to do it. So these, you have mistakes in every step of the way.
Well, yeah, you always make mistakes. That's how you learn. So, for example, when you do experiments, you always, at the beginning, I don't know, when you do, in my case, behavioral experiments, you start talking or making noises, and then you realize that you're like influencing the experiment, and then you kind of lost that small experiment. Or I don't know, like it's very typical in science when you just confound experimental groups or things like that. So yeah, there's a long list of mistakes that I could say that I did in the past.